Hello, hello, and hello.
Hello.
Boom. Hey. How are you tonight? Everybody well?
I think so.
Hey, don't we live in a beautiful world?
We do.
It's a fantastic world. Yeah, I'm Thundercloud. How are you? Welcome to Wednesday Words Poetry Night here from Seahorse Medicine Cafe in the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Well, you know, as I said, I'm Thundercloud. Mum calls me James. I'm washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after it rains. Well, let's have some fun and linguistic games. Here we go. Let's begin with a little something I wrote earlier in the week. Understanding comes from listening, accepting, respecting, supporting, not voting, imposing, usurping, supposing, assuming, nor judging, just listening. Yeah. And so a little quickie. I didn't write a lot this week. However, I've had a really wonderful find, and I was down at the Rotary Book Fair in Armidale, and they're on, which I found, and I've got a whole lot of books for the Australian Poetry Library, so over 100, so of all modern poets and old poets and a few international poets and poetry books and stuff, and one that I've picked up is Roland Robinson's Alcheringa and Other Aboriginal Poems. And Roland Robinson was a great, not only poet and writer, but a collector of Aboriginal poems. So I'll be reading from that in a moment. So on that note, we'll begin with acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I broadcast and which we broadcast to acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders past and present, and to acknowledge sovereignty's never been ceded. Now, the little introduction that I wrote was an introduction to a post that I shared from a friend of mine, DK Gomeroi, a friend of mine. He's not just Gomeroi, he's a few different First Nations. And this is something that he wrote during the week, and I'm going to read it out because he's also he's a hip hop artist, DK. He goes by the name on Facebook, Diri Ya Gamel Capitun, Diri Ya Gamel Capitun. And this piece of poetry writing from his is called Disclosing the Gap. It also comes with a big PS at the end, and from the PS I'll then point you in the direction of some resources so you can do your own listening. This is from DK, lives up there in Brisbane, Mianjin, around that area, but he's of Gomeroi. Disclosing the gap. Truth, conceptualised from the perspective of a socio-political group, should only be construed as having a solidified substance and to withstand as absolute. Take it from this next kin of a recompensed victim to the stolen generations as living proof. As guardian of future prospects, our perpetual tribal sentient beings, our youth. treaty proposed by the corporatised greedy, usurping sovereignty, attempted ceding, leading to a failed history, repeating. Babylon, the only ones in this instance eating, vampires for our blood feeding, New World Order and WHO, the hate breeding, to our natural laws, the continual impeding, till the melanated are all receding. The voice only equates to the promo. It's more white noise, to the point it destroys. Another day in the colony, another systematic evil it deploys. Yet again we have to smuggle the light in the dark to share ancient rights to our girls and boys. I'm just disclosing the gap, truth, treaty, voice, with this message in hopes to fill the void. The crown, diri ya gamel capitun. P.S. and then it goes on. Non-Indigenous Australians, please vote responsibly by engaging with Indigenous peoples, both poor and middle class, and make an informed decision. My Indigenous peoples, family and sovereign counterparts, if you vote, it's just ceding your sovereignty immediately in that instance, just saying. However, when attending the polling booths, make your protest obvious by only signing the attendance under duress. Two options following. Apply V.C, then your signature, followed by all rights reserved. Now you have signed V coactus under duress, either that way or don't sign it, and in place of your signature write the words non est factum, where the signature has to be applied. There's a third option, but if you do the crime, you've got to be prepared to do the time. 3, if you're belligerent like me, an accomplice to the fact at hand and being a protest that can be applied by both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, simply boycott the referendum, don't vote and take the fine. It'll be evidently racially motivated and it will leave room for a class action lawsuit against the nation, and the remedy could potentially be sovereignty restored to the rightful owners. So that's one man's point of view, and one man that I respect's point of view. And other places you can find out more if you go to National Unity Government .org, where you'll find information on Sovereign Union, which is the First Nations asserting sovereignty. You can find out more information there. And you also, if you look up on Facebook Treaty Before Voice, you can also find out more information about the No campaign from the First Nations perspective, and from those First Nations who are promoting a no voice. No, vote for the voice. But please do as DK asks, please do your research, and that's it. Now, in my opinion, we're lucky we're still a country that hasn't ever had a declaration of independence from the Crown. So we still, for the whole lot of us, like in First Nations and the rest of us, there is still an opportunity for a whole rewrite of the Constitution in a brand new form of democracy that's inclusive and less vulnerable to corruption, and there are models being developed currently. So yeah, a lot of hope out there for our future here in this continent of Australia. Right, now I'm going to move on to Alcheringa, which is by Roland Robinson. This was published in here we go, in 1970. So it's the same age as me. It's in two parts. I picked this up at the Rotary Book Fair. Roland Robinson, is his little blurb at the front. He's a well-known poet. To all lovers of good verse in Australia, understands the mind and attitudes of Aboriginals, a few other Europeans do. In the first part of Alcheringa, the Aranda, a Central Australian tongue for creation time, he's recorded the songs, chants and narrative poems of his Aboriginal friends, and he has translated them into English verse, some of them. Some are ballads, some are modern renditions of old Aboriginal legends, and all have a sad, haunting spirit of a displaced people. The second part of the book is devoted to Roland Robinson's own poems. I'm only actually going to read one of his out and be reading the rest. He's collected these from far and wide, from the Central Desert, from what do you call it, over near the Richmond River, Clarence River mob, the Williams is over there, he's got it from Pitjantjatjara, he's got it from Central, he's got it from all different mobs around. So in the introduction he goes into that. I'll just be, cultural sensitivity warning, I will be mentioning the names of people who as pretty certain could be deceased by this time. So the first one that I've chosen, because I did read some out last night in Chill and Tuesday, and you can see that there on YouTube as well. So don't forget to give this a thumbs up, and if you've got a favourite poem or poet you'd like me to read out from Australia, leave a comment underneath. Think about it, and while you're listening, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to share this video with all your friends as well. Why not? Because poetry, Australian poetry, all poetry is awesome. Bees. We'll start with bees. This was, these are the two that I'm going to do were related by Percy Mumbulla. Bees. Abraham's Bosom was the name the place had after the white man came. From the hollow trees in their native home, them old fellas cut the honeycomb. And honey and little white grubs they fed, 'cause them young bees was black fellas bred. That's why they was so mighty and strong in their native home at Currarong. And them old fellas' drink was honey bull, honey and water a coolaman full. Naked through the bush they went and never knew what sickness meant. Them little dark bees would do you no harm. They'd crawl all over your honey-smeared arm. But them Italian bees, they'd bung you right up when we was young. We used to rob their honey trees. Savage, they'd fetch your blood, them bees. Would zing and zoom and chase a fella from Bomaderry to Badella. And Uncle Mina, Billy Blue, Jackie Mumbulla, King Merriman too. Them fierce old fellas, they all gone now. And the wild honey's still in the gum tree bough. Bees, related by Percy Mumbulla. Now, next one, again related by Percy Mumbulla, is Captain Cook. Tungiai. That was a native name. She was a terrible tall woman who lived at Ulladulla. She had 6 husbands and buried the lot. She was over 100 easy when she died. She was telling my father they were sitting on the point that all was wild scrub. The big ship came and anchored out at Snapper Island. He put down a boat and rowed up the river into Bateman's Bay. He landed on the shore of the river, the other side from where the church is now. When he landed, he gave the Kooris clothes and those big sea biscuits. Terrible hard biscuits they was. When they were pulling away to go back to the ship, those wild Kooris were running out of the scrub. They'd stripped right off again. They were throwing the clothes and biscuits back at Captain Cook as his men were pulling away in the boat. Yeah, that's it. Interesting. All right, this one. Yeah, well, this is The Everlasting Water, related by Fred Biggs. Once, all the animals, birds, stars and moon were men who lived beside a deep reed-fringed lagoon. And once, when all those men had gone in 2s and 3s to gather for their food gum of the yarran trees, the Eagle Man, he came with water skins, and soon he filled those skins with all the water of that lagoon. He left but slush and mud, then with an eagle's cry, the everlasting water he carried up into the sky. And when those men returned from gathering their food, the turkey, mad with thirst, rolled in the slush and mud. Beside that dry lagoon, those men sat down to cry and gash their heads and say, if they should live or die. The brolga and crow, flying fox and bat, emu and kangaroo, possum and native cat, all said, now we will die, and dead we'll remain. Only the moon said, I will die, but live again. Then all those men cried out with clamour of strange words. They changed to stars and moon, animals and birds. That deep reed-fringed lagoon never could go dry until the eagle took the water up into the sky. That's why the rainmaker, his rainstone like a knife, must let out from those skins the water that is life. That's nice, that's lovely, yeah, the everlasting water. All right, now, I could almost do with a drink of water myself. I'm a little bit thirsty. However, the next one I'm going to read is related by Dick Donnelly. It's called The Platypus. Now, I'm still waiting on my book to arrive, but my book is last week that I released is called Jan Bung's Peaceful Protest in Nimbin. Now, Jan Bung is a Bundjalung word for platypus.
Yeah.
And this poem here is actually mentions Janbung because it's related by Dick Donnelly, and it's and it mentions Washbull Creek and the Clarence River, so that area of north eastern New South Wales. So the platypus, Janbung's the platypus. He was a man one time. He came out of Washbull Creek, the old people said. Janbung's travelling a fire stick in hand across the big mountains to the Clarence River. He's blowing on the fire stick to make it flame, but it won't flame, and wherever the sparks fall down, from the fire stick they turn to gold. This platypus man's mouth starts to get wide from blowing on the fire stick. We used to blow on the fire stick when we were young. My mother used to say to us, "Don't blow on the fire stick like that or you'll be like Janbung the platypus." When Janbung gets down to the Clarence River, he's got a big mouth from blowing on the fire stick. He starts to wonder, what am I going to do now? He got tired of trying to make the fire stick flame. So he throws the fire stick down and he thinks, I'll jump into the water. As soon as he jumps into the water, he turns into a platypus. That's him. That's Janbung now. He was a man one time. Now, Billy Charlie, he found his nugget of gold at the place where Janbung jumped into the water. When I heard about this, I thought, well now, that's the fire stick he found. Because he found that gold where the fire stick was thrown down. The old people tell me this story. They showed me the way Janbung went out across the mountain range. That's it. Interesting.
Very interesting.
It is. And, alright, here we go. This one's by Charlotte Williams and it's called Song of the Vine. There was a vine whose spirit was a man. These forest vines, they were not made by men. They were the spirit people's vines. And someone cut this vine, and there this man is struggling to be alive. This is my own grandfather's song. I am here, the song says. I am this vine. My life is going away from me, from this ground, this place, this dust. My ears are ringing. Gaungan, the spirit woman, is making my ears no good. My ears are ringing. I'll see this world no more. And one man came along and saw this vine, struggling to be alive. He covered it with dust. When I think of my old people, how they would sit down and sing their songs to me, I could cry. Related by Charlotte Williams. Okay. And before I invite Gladys up to come and do hers, there's the one poem that's actually written by Roland Robinson himself that I'm going to do, and it's called Alcheringa, and it means chaos or creation time, and it's a word from the Central Desert Pitjantjara people. I'm pretty sure that's what I read in the introduction over here somewhere. Yeah. No, I've already read that anyway. Chaos and creation time, Alcheringa. Nude, smooth, giant, huge torsos of the gums hold up a vast cave as the great moon comes. Shock-headed black boy with up-thrust spear stands against that glistening sphere. In clenched birth, Banksias agonize. From ferns and earth, beast boulders rise. The land goes back to time unknown. Chaos without word or image carved on stone. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Gladys. Yeah, it's a lovely book, and there's more I look forward to really reading and getting into that. So, and that fits in here with the mission statement with all these new books to preserve not only Australian poetry, international, but First Nations poetry and songlines as well. So, are you ready to come on up?
Yes, James.
All right, welcome back, Gladys, to the Seahorse Medicine Cafe. I'm just going to turn that light on and off to stop it flicking.
Somebody's just walked over my grave.
Oh, look at that. It's just going to flick, isn't it? There we go. We're going to focus it on you. Welcome back, Gladys Wilson.
Oh, yep, exactly. Now, all right, James? Yep. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone out there, and welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And I've got one here, and this is just simply our bushland calling. Once again, we hear the call, so now it's time to play our part and protect the precious bushland that remains close to our heart. Just to feel the freedom of this wide open space must be the most wonderful gift of all, out here in Nature's kingdom with creatures great and small. But we must be all aware of these changing weather patterns, with firestorms sweeping through, as plumes of smoke now covers this beautiful sky of blue. These volunteer firemen now are heroes who will never give up the fight to battle raging fires that burn throughout the night. With those smouldering embers still drifting way out in the evening air, revealing the true horror of sadness and despair. The warning signs are already here, no longer can we ignore the threat of global warming that's right at our front door. While the sun rises over the blackened landscape as daybreak begins to appear, only to face heartbreaking reality of our greatest fear. An eerie silence now hangs over the bushland, and rolling hills seem so far away as shadows start to deepen at the closing of another day. With all our teaching, surely we can learn, so our endangered flora and fauna can once again return. Now I'm going to read the roadmap of life. I like this old roadmap.
That's lovely.
Right. A roadmap of life. Our lives are like a roadmap with many twists and turns, As we follow the winding pathway, there's still much more to learn. But the journey in life, of course, is a challenge that's now placed in our hands to guide us through good and bad times as this great universe expands. There are many bends we must navigate on this never-ending road as you share together the burden to lighten a heavy load. Now, in this ever-changing world, we still should have a choice to stand up and become, or speak with just one voice. Even sometimes, though, we need to stay strong and take comfort from those around us when little things go wrong. Never take our time on earth for granted, as one very wise man once said, and always be aware of those warning signs ahead. But Father Time waits for no one. He knows the reason why, as the old clock on the mantelpiece keeps ticking as each day passes by. As we all look forward to a brighter future, that's part of our master plan. So let's stand together united to do the best we can. Right, that's me, John. So I'll move over here. Right, that's
Well, thank you, Gladys.
no worries.
All right, well, in a moment, I'm going to readjust the this up. We got a few dolphins here. I think I'm going to need the dolphins for this. So yeah, this week here I am in Seahorse Medicine Cafe Under the Sea, and I've released my book Jan Bung's Peaceful Protest in Nimbinus, and it's the year where I had lots of excuse me, animal poems. And this one's called The Man and the Dolphin. So I've got a few little dolphins here with me tonight. They found him in the morning, sitting on the beach. He said, "Enjoy the morning and the sunrise is out of reach." After that he sat there and didn't say a word. The sun came up, the waves washed down, and he watched a flying bird. Sands go through the hourglass, you can't hold water in your hand. He lived inside the moment and sat upon the sand. The dark night sky was leaving the horizon red and yellow. A spark of light appeared, the sun rose and said, "Hello." The air was warming up. He went in for a swim. The water warmer than the air invigorating him. He dived beneath the waves, swam with a school of fish. A dolphin swam beside him and he got his lifelong wish. And all that he could hear as the dolphin swam around was the sound of crashing waves and a squeaky dolphin sound. He listened to the dolphin and this is what it said: "Enjoy the now, create the life of joy you want instead of worrying about the future or living in the past. Enjoy each present moment and make the good ones last." He swam back to the shore and sat upon the sand. He lived inside the moment and his life was grand. He told him about the dolphin and what the dolphin said. The past and future are out of reach. He heard it in his head. He sat inside the moment, built a sun castle on the beach. The past, the future and the sun are all there out of reach. A wave washed up the beach and washed the sand castle down. He laughed and built another one and never wore a frown. He lived inside the moment, sat upon the sand. In every present moment, he was the happy man. Thanks. Yeah. And now we're going to invite Ashley up. Come on up, Ashley.
Well, I suppose in some ways, James and I like
Thank you. That's lovely.
pineapples and apples, similar but different, and both from odd Queensland sideways backgrounds, foregrounds. Sorry about that. But it's a big place, Queensland. I said to my mum once, "Why do you think Queenslanders are brave?" And she was a little Sydney, partly Jewish, partly Irish girl, and she used to go to the Easter show and watch the jumpers, and she'd say to me, "Oh, the Queensland jumpers." I used to watch them carefully on their horses, go up and over, and they were the bravest horsemen and the bravest jumpers. Interesting comment. I think I've mentioned that once before, rattling away here, but it is an interesting comment. Now, here are my friends. I dip down into the side of my little white bubble gets, and I bring out three rulers, and I'm challenged tonight because I wanted to make a joke that isn't really funny about 4. So there we are, 3. Hypothesis, the implications of not being able to count straight, because many can't. It's wonderful to have the intentionality of going 1, 2, 3 and being able to get there. 1, 2, 3, hurrah!
Hurrah!
And the implications of that, well, the implications of that are that we're all on different cognitive levels. Now, today in the United States of America, or it may have been yesterday, someone went to the flagpole outside of the Capitol, that white dome that was being constructed as people were catching malaria in Washington and constructing the white cupola in the raging of the Civil War. Washington was being constructed around Mr. Lincoln and others while the Civil War raged. Well, today someone went to that flagpole and they put up the Stars and Stripes upside down at half-mast. And I have written a poem about that singular image and singular moment that took place in Washington today, or in the last 24 hours. I also brought along an image of this, I suppose, in a sense. Operation Biden powers up as President prepares for historic visit to Parliament. And there's the Eagle itself, the helicopter the President will fly into Canberra, filmed from afar, because probably the Australian correspondent wasn't allowed any closer than that to it. And as this was printed and came to press, the US announced that President Biden will not be coming to Australia to fly in that helicopter, shown on the front page of the Australian newspaper today, because he's retained on areas of pressure and conflict within his own political system. So, in honour of the person who put up the Stars and Stripes back to front at half-mast, I wrote this pithiness. Oh, star-spangled banner, the napalm-spangled banner. Is this going to be a Yankee lament, to right or to left? It's not lambasting, it is not. I will not lament. I am proud of the white stick next to the great bulging cupola, but I am here to flag that someone did, in this day of our Lord, 16th of May 2023, oh, star-spangled banner, did raise the flag of the United States of America, no less, the Grand Republic, upside down half-mast, and the red and white waves gracefully splick-splacked over the truculent stars that shucked there in the bottom right-hand corner. Oh, star-spangled shuckedness, suckedness. We won't go on with that line. At sea, mariners put the flag of their sovereign nation upside down mid-mast to show distress and crisis. And I checked up on the protocol for flag raising in Washington over the last week, and that flag was not to be put up in that way in the steps of protocol. Now I will change my gears and I will go over to poem of David Malouf. You see Mr. Malouf, his 1970s anthology with a picture of one of the Glasshouse Mountains, before which my dear dad was born. He was born before that on a pineapple farm in 1921. Now, I switched on YouTube and up popped an Indian professor talking about this, that and that and that and maybe this, and she was discussing a poem of David Malouf's I didn't know, Revolving Days, and I wrote it out in longhand and I have meditated much upon it. David Malouf, Revolving Days. That year I had nowhere to go. I fell in love, a mistake of course, but it lasted and has lasted. The old tug at the heart, the grace unasked for, urgencies that boom under the pocket of a shirt. What I remember is the colour of the shirts. I bought them as an experiment in ways of seeing myself, hoping to catch in a window as I passed what I was to be in my new life as lover. One mint green, one pink, the third called Ivy League tan, with darker stripes. My first button-down collar. We never write, but sometimes, not in my tie at a mirror, one of those selves I had expected steps into the room. In the next room you are waiting. We have not yet taken back the life we promised to pour into each other's mouths forever and ever, while I choose between changes to surprise you. Revolving days, my heart in my mouth again. I'm writing this for you wherever you are, whoever is staring into your blue eyes. It is me. I'm still here, no doubt. Don't worry, I won't appear out of that old time to discomfort you. And no, at this distance, I'm not holding my breath for a reply. There's some unusual aspects to that poem. And when I sat back writing longhand, I suddenly realised, but for revolving, as a capital R opening the line, the only capitals in the poem are Ivy League. And I think that relates to my salute to the Star-Spangled Banner. I went to the dictionary and looked up Ivy League, and it is most apt to our present historical juncture. Now, what have I been doing? Reading. Been reading David Malouf and writing him out. It's only when you write him out you see the interstices, you see the dance that is not there, the silence in his writing. He really is, all in all, I think, quite a great writer. I sat down and I wrote the Glasshouse, which I will perform tonight, the Glasshouse Mountain poem. And so only once you write through and stillness into the diction that you really see what he's on about. What have I been reading? I'll interrupt Mr. Malouf. I've been reading one of the great analyses of communist thought, Reading Capital, by a man who went mad in a German prison camp, I think, but became a great philosopher, Louis Althusser. It's sad he had to spend 4 years in a German prison camp, but he wrote some great work. If you want to understand the modern world, you have to begin to grapple with that, yes or no's of it. Now, I've also been reading a book I bought in the bargain bin of the Armidale Book Fair, Damon Runyon, on Broadway. Oh, what a smorgasbord. What an indigestion. Althazar to Damon Runyon, back to David Malouf. Okay, here we have Glass House Mountains. But I did think, as I went into the many layers of Revolving Days, my heart in my mouth again, relating back to that great springtime yelp of we have not yet taken back the life we promised to pour into each other's mouths. The lament of that, the growing older and growing wiser. We hope, my heart in my mouth again, my writing this out, confessing and coming through me to you and to you. The depth of those simple words. He writes very simply but potently. Now, I will finish with two more fairly short pieces. 3. Glasshouse Mountains. It's very interesting that when he comes to the last stanza and he goes, "Oh, giants," he doesn't have OH exclamation mark. He just has an O, as if it was a piece of Chinese calligraphy really coming at it, you denoting the cycle of everything and nothing. You've got to sit down and microscope in on a lot of what he does. And there's been much commentary about this poem, particularly in terms of a type of Taoism that seems to be in his marrow. Glasshouse Mountains for Judith. Seen always across a bay called Deception, abandoned pier, bait kiosk, the prawn fleets swinging at anchor with the moon, 5 gables of glass. No one casts the stone or could over that sunlit stone's throw of water to shatter them. On clear days they stand far off, move close under the rain. At night, safe in our beds, we dream of them. Brows of giants frown up from the bay's depths. Our pebbles skip leagues of bright water to snap at their heads. So close, we push off for their further shore. Our arms grow stronger for rowing. Like lodestones, they draw us. The shadows strike out from our flesh. The grey sandpiper dips through matchwood spars. Sea lice, keen flakes of moonlight, scatter and burn. The bay dries to white salt on our fingers, to black on our lips. Oh, giants unkilled, who walk tonight the moonlit water lanes of my sleep. In the bay a small boy's throwing, arm weighed down with stones, 5 mountain peaks. Is he speaking of many of the Aboriginal problems that we had originally and ongoingly in our great colony of Australia? I think we have to cease to be a colony before we can write just and balanced laws and have just and balanced systems of economic development tuned in to all and for all. The last words are interesting. Is he referring to some aspect of Aboriginal spirit coming up through those rocks, which I know my dad felt, even though he'd only been born in front of them, because as I once said, he said to me, "Oh, I only saw them once from a hospital train going up from Kokoda to rest and recreation at Toowoomba." So the only thing they had in his life was an eternal presence, because he was born with them, but he only once saw them from a hospital train window. So they have an interest to me. And I've only once seen them from a motorcar window, beetling north with my wife many, many decades ago. But I'll go through the last stanza just once more. Giants unkilled, who walk tonight the moonlit water, dash. a dash. Next line. Lanes of my sleep. In the bay are small boys throwing, arm weighed down with stones, 5 mountain peaks. I love the way, I should have had the silence set in like the mirrored image of the 5 of them on the water of a bay of deception. But I love the way he... No, I forgot what I was going to say. Now, I will finish with something else close to my heart. Sadly, something somewhat prophetic of the state we're in. I'm not positive or negative. Let me be upright. I'm not positive or negative about the state we're in. I try to study and read and think and compare with what I know personally from people I knew who went through these things in the Second World War in Germany, what they said to me relating like a torchlight across a stage to the events of the present. There's certainly an ongoing continuity of difficulties. I'll just read a little part of one of Günter Grass's poems and finish with something from Chinese literature. I'll rattle off peace treaties like Hail Marys. I'm starting halfway through a poem called Kleckerberg about the Hanseatic Baltic world he knew and was born in when he was born in Danzig, now Gdansk. Who knows what it will be in the future? After all, last week Kaliningrad became Katorovsky, or perhaps Gyra will become Dobrobjevchimochima. Yes, I'm getting carried away. I'm into the movement of names. Can there be such a thing? Can there be such a thing, Gladys, as the movement of names?
Gyra Jing.
Gyra Jing, yeah. I'm going to finish with a page of this salute to the Hansa and the Baltic, the world out of which my best friend, who is long dead, came with her wisdoms and her great aesthetic sensibility, out of this poem, Kleckerberg. Yes, I was always good at history, so was I. Ask me about the plagues and price increases. I'll rattle off peace treaties like Hail Marys, Masters of Orders, Swedish War, and know the Jagellons by heart, and all the churches from St. John's to Holy Trinity, red brick. Who still asks where? Oh, my intonation is Baltic, wily, warm as rooms. What says the Baltic? Blub, poof, push. In German, Polish, blub, poof, push. But when I asked the functionaries at the assembly weary coach and special train fed gathering of Eastern refugees at Hanover, they had forgotten what the Baltic says and made the Atlantic Ocean roar, which they still do, Mr. Albanese says as he recites the poem, and made the Atlantic Ocean roar. I kept insisting, blub, poof, push. So, hit him, kill him, all yelled out, hit him, kill him. He's turned his back on human rights, on pensions, on the world-based national order, on his native city, on compensations, restitutions. Just listen to his intonation. That's not the Baltic, that's high treason. Put screws on him and make him talk. Get wheels and tongs and pokes, blind him and stretch his memory on the rack. We want his answer, when and where, not on the straw dyke, nor in Merchants' Meadows, nor yet in Pepper Town. Would that I had been born between great Storlofts on the Holm. Near the small Streisbach, by the rifle range it happened, and today the street is Polish, is called Lelevela. Only the number left at the door remains, and sand for castles, clammy, muddy grail. At Kleckerberg was born west of, it lies to the northwest, south of. The light there changes much more than the seagulls are not seagulls, but, and there the milk, a Vistula tributary, honeyed and many bridged, flowed by. Baptized and vaccinated, schooled, confirmed, bomb splinters meanwhile were my toys, and I grew up was reared between the Holy Ghost and Hitler's photograph. Ship sirens echo in my ears, locked sentences and wind-blown cries, a few sound church bells, rifle fire and Baltic snatches. Blub, poof, push. Well, Hedwig Klescher, if you're listening up there, out there, around there, you would have enjoyed hearing that, but you would have preferred it in Deutsch like Gemach, no doubt. But there it is in English. Oh, look, the yin-yang couple from a 1930 poster, discovering New England in the Highlands. They haven't got time to kiss because they'd go off the corner and hit the waterfall. But when they round the corner, a love feast is prepared. More tourists should come up here and do this. The statistics show people are scared of the granite 1,000 metres up. Come on, come and enjoy the New Caledonia. That's what the original white fellas here called it. And then the government in Sydney forced them by legislation to call it New England. Oh, New England. Come up and see New Caledonia. That's the best of it. Now let's see. From 4,000 years of Chinese something or other, we will just serendipitously read shortly from On Seclusion. Well, once upon a time, you had to get your bullocks together in your wagon. You had to look at the great rise from Tamworth up the highway there, and it was a circuitous track in that era, the 19th century, and you had to think, oh well, we're going up, So, what is esteemed in human relationships is the just estimate of another's inborn nature and helping him to realise it. When you see a straight piece of wood, you do not want to make it into a wheel, nor do you try to make a rafter of a crooked piece. And this is because you would not want to pervert its heaven-given quality, but rather see that it finds its proper place. Now, all the four classes of people have each their own occupation in which each takes pleasure in fulfilling his own ambition. It is only the man of understanding who can comprehend all of them. Oh, we're back to Louis Althusser again. It is only the man of understanding who can comprehend all of them. In this you have only to seek within yourself to know that one may not, out of one's own preference for formal clothes, force the people of way to wear figured caps, or become, because one has a taste for putrid meat, try to feed a phoenix a dead rat. Of late I've been studying the techniques of prolonging one's life, casting out all ideas of fame and glory, eliminating tastes and letting my mind wander in stillness. Stillness. What is most worthwhile to me in inaction? Even if there were not these 9 concerns, I could still pay no attention to your wishes. But beyond this, my mind tends toward melancholy, increasingly so of late, and I'm personally convinced I would not be able to stand any occupation in which I took no pleasure. Well, he goes on and on and on, because he wants to live through it forever, because there's always going to be a new banquet, a new pleasurable taste to fill one's mouth with in the spectrum of Chinese consciousness. Oh, star-spangled something or other.
Yeah.
So, before I was here in Guyra,
You were always here.
before I was in Guyra,
Yes.
I lived 2 years and about 7 months in another little country town called Nimbin. And Nimbin's at the moment celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Aquarius Festival over there. The Aquarius Festival was a festival put on by the National Union of Students, Graham Dunstan and some other people, and It was a progressive lifestyle festival. Well, living over there, I wrote a lot of poetry, and Love in Nimbin and Lust in Nimbin were the first two books that I published over there. And since then, the Poetry to End Prohibition, and recently Jan Bung's Peaceful Protest in Nimbin. So yeah, this is the title poem, Love and Lust in Nimbin. It could have been Apples and a Peas, or Sleeping on a Doorstep, Smelling of Vomit and Blue Cheese. Love and Lust in Nimbin. It could be Living in a Human Zoo, or Angry Fascist Bully Boys, or Rainbow Hippie Spew. Love and Lust in Nimbin. It could have been Aquarius and Peace, or OD on a Saturday morning. Communes, cannabis and trees. Love and Lust in Nimbin, our eternal dream time too, and songs for our corroborees of our widgeable ancestors too. But love and lust in Nimbin, it's what came into my mind. I'm living in the country and I'm eating peaches all the time. Love and lust in Nimbin. Take a peek inside. You'll love these little books. You might even buy them, and I'm sure you'll decide. Yeah, so that's, and you can check them out on Amazon. Love in Nimbin, Lust in Nimbin, and Jan Bung's Peaceful Protest in Nimbin. And so in Jan Bung's Peaceful Protest in Nimbin in 18, it's my 2018 anthology of poetry. This one came out back there. It's a poem written in alphabetical order, pretty much. And it's called Aberrant Zoolander. Aberrant, abhorrent, abusers addressed as Aboriginal boys beaten, bashed, benediction, be blessed, Catholic canons, cardinals, chamber confessed, corruption, crime, corporate crown, cult of the crest, circumcised castration conspired to create captives of case law, no cause to celebrate. Dawn of the dead, a determined defence, don't disobey dinky-dyed deputy dents. Dubious dynasty, Elizabethan excellence, economic enslavement, employment experiments, farewell fate forces fatherless foster child, fair dinkum failure finds future fucking fried. Fugitives, funerals, forlorn in frustration, gymnasiums in jail for genocide generation. Hard up, he's hanging head high in heaven, hostages of holy human incarceration. He's hurting, humiliated, how is his hell? He hits her hatred, heroin, hits ISIS well. Incalculably incapacitated, indebted, intimidation, jostled in just jailed, judged, jackass jurisdiction. Kleptomaniacs with keys and knives, knowledge of law, lawyers masquerading as merchants misappropriate more. Macquarie merchant moneyman's mates misappropriate much more. I'm just Macquarie Merchant Money Man. That's a reference to ex-leader of the current opposition. What was his name? Malcolm Turnbull. Murderous militiamen masturbate to militarism. Newspaper no true news. Narcissistic nationalism. Nihilistic nightmare. Nationalist necrophiles orchestrate oligarchy orgies of obedient pedophiles. Prime Minister Patriot pickpocketing poor. President Pandemonium pays for prostitutes and porn. Pulpit provocation of the priest pederast. Plebiscite and praying for peace. Psychotic psychopaths. Queensland QCs read Royal Commission reports. Racist recommendations recognised as good at sports. So, suck shit, shut up, Sergeant Stupid, snorts, squeals, sniffs, snout, state slavery, sucks our son's suicide, scream, suffer, shout. Terrorist theocracies, tentacles, trick, television, telephones, touch screens, totalitarian trip. Twats in tuxedos, unsecured, unemployed, usurp, utopian visions. Very vaporized. Walkabout, welcome, water lilies, wetland, xantheria, and yabbies. You live in Zooland. That's it. So that was written in 2018. It's worth a bit of a deconstruction, because when it was written with a big help of a thesaurus, actually. Going through, and at that very time, it's a very much a statement on the political state of the year 2018, and what was going on then. We had Malcolm Turnbull mentioned there, President Pandemonium. We would have had, what's his name, just coming out of Bill Clinton going into Donald Trump. Could have been either of them. And also allusions to Cardinal Pell, etc., etc., etc. But that really needs to be read in conjunction with the news of that particular year. All right, now this week I've got only a couple left to go for you. This is what I've written this week. Very little, actually. This was thunk up while I was doing my gym. When you're not building muscle every day, you're wasting away. So I say, go play, dance away, become stronger, live longer, balanced, faster balanced, flexy, and more sexy. And that's, And I learned 2 new words this week. Sarcopenia and hypertrophy.
God, James.
Hypertrophy. Now, sarcopenia is age-related muscle wastage.
Oh.
And hypertrophy is building muscle.
I'm going along. I'm the last one, I think.
I think so too. And they say everybody over 40 ought to be doing some kind of gym workout to keep building muscle every day, because that's what keeps your metabolism going.
On the Matic.
Yeah. Okay. Now it was Mother's Day. And for Mother's Day, this is what I wrote. Suddenly a little quatrain. Based on that wonderful troll book out there that Web Troll Did Have a Mum. There once was a troll, and he did have a mum who could read and write, and she taught her son to read, write, run, swim, smile, and have fun, and only tell the truth when he trolled anyone. That's that. Yeah. That's my mum. That's for my mum. Here's another one, because I like eating dirt because it's better than eating carpet. It's a bit of a saying that's been in my life for a very long time. Prevention is better than cure. Processed is worse than pure. Homegrown better than market. Eating dirt is healthier than eating carpet. And the last one I've got for you, because, oh look, okay, this is like sometimes how I feel in this place, a bit overwhelmed because it's such a big project, and I could do with all the help I can do. Thinking too much about this and that. Being an adult wearing a responsibility hat. Living in a pond where there is no longer competition between each other, and together we're stronger. Now we've been through a lot of whys, grew into a new job and passed the surprise of the shock of I don't know what to do now, asking for help. Asking how you can help too. This isn't waving, I feel like I'm drowning in a confusion of a tidal wave. No one's clowning. The phoenix emerges when its feathers burn. Some lessons take a lot of pain to learn. Throw a life jacket and a raft to a caged giraffe. A jack of all trades cannot master every craft. To build a pyramid takes whole teams. We all need each other to progress collective dreams. And that's that. Oh, look at that. And Sky's just walked in. The sky blew in. Look what's just blowing. How about that? Oh, have you got a poem for us, Sky? Welcome back. No, okay.
Well,
we've just finished.
Tell us the most poetic thing you saw on your journeys and adventures. There must be one snapshot.
Okay, you're on camera.
There must be one snapshot in your mind.
Welcome back to Gyra.
Thanks. I'm sure I do have a few poems, but
Yeah, you did. You wrote lots for the Dirty 30.
yeah.
Did you have a dominating thought on your travels about Australia winter 2023? Or not?
You're on the spot here.
Yeah, just enjoy.
No. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you later. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next week for Wednesday Word here from Seahorse Medicine Cafe. You've been put on the spot.
Good you came in there.